Hi everyone, it's Jill Foster here for another PB&J card class, and this is video number 2 in our 12 Days of Christmas Card Making Stash Busting Sketches series. So before we begin, I'll just review real quickly what I consider to be stash. When I'm saying stash busting, would be products you already own, use, and love, products you've purchased but haven't used yet, and products you purchase after watching them used, but you want to make sure you actually use them. So for me, stash busting is breaking through any barriers to using your stash so you can really enjoy your supplies and get down to sitting down and enjoying your hobby. And for me, sketches really help. Sketches can give you a starting off point. They limit your choices, which for me is like a really, really good thing. And they provide structure and give a home for those items you've purchased and you want to use. So it really is a way to break through that barrier of the blank card in front of you. To do this personally, I have 2 boxes prepared as I'm creating, and I use these as I made all of these videos. The first is a sketch box. So I have all of the sketches and I pre-prep an envelope for each one of those sketches. So I cut out sort of just that base or that starting point and I keep it in an envelope. This is not actually for the card we're making today, but just to show you sort of what I have in that sketch box. It's just the basic elements that are cut. You can see that these sketches could be used for any season as well. They're really versatile. Then I also have a stash box, and this is where I've gone through my stash and limited what I kind of want to be looking to use as I use these sketches. So it limits my choices. It's not written in stone. If I want to grab something else, I always can. And it's handy. It's really easy to access. And if you want to see more and hear me talk more about what's in this stash box, it's all Christmas products. Be sure to visit my first video in this series, and I'll put a link for that for you down in the YouTube description box below. So this is how I use these stash busting sketches. I have that box with the pre-prepped card designs and then the stash that I want to be sure to use. I'm making Christmas cards, so it's all Christmas themed products, some new and some older products. And I'm just going through here showing you a few more of the things that are in that stash box. I keep these right there I work in like a little closet, like I have a desk in a closet, and that's where it is. So here is the sketch that we will be using today. This makes really beautiful 1-layer cards, which are super easy to mail. And here is what it looks like. It is a simple border design or sort of frame design right on the paper with a large focal point image and sentiment, and that is it. But these cards were so fun to make and I really like the effect. So to create this border element on my cards, I'm using Penny Black's Stick and Shine Designs. This is like a rub on, but what it leaves when you rub it onto your cardstock is sticky where that design is. And so you can use it with embossing powders, you can use it with glitter. I'm going to use it with embossing powders and with foil today. So I rub that on and I'm going to sprinkle it with embossing powder. And I will have all of the Penny Black products listed and linked for you down in the YouTube description box below. I'll also link a video for you with a little bit more in-depth instruction on the Stick and Shine product line from Penny Black. It's super, super fun. I'll heat that to set it, and then I'll also show you how to use these with foil. So I'm going to lay this onto my cardstock. I'm using Bristol smooth cardstock. I wanted a really smooth cardstock. These Stick and Shine designs work best with smooth paper, but I also wanted to be able to watercolor, so I really love the Bristol smooth paper for that. I've rubbed it onto my paper and I'm going to lay some foil on top and just gently rub that with my fingertip, and I can easily foil this beautiful design without any heat or anything, and it's just so pretty. So I'm using some red foil here. I'll peel that foil back off. If you don't quite get it all, you can put it back on and rub it a little bit. And look at that in the light. How pretty is that? So I'll show you one more time. This is how the stick and shine designs come like that. You can cut them apart, so you're just using one at a time. I'm going to lay it down on that Strathmore Bristol Smooth paper, rub it with my fingertip. We also have an applicator tool. I didn't have it at the time of making this video, and it did work fine with my fingertip as well. I'm going to layer my foil on. This time I'm using a gold foil. I will gently rub that with my fingertip, not the nail. I don't want to scratch it in. I just want to rub it with the fingertip. And then it is foiled. So I'm going to now stamp my design on these. This is our Radiant Red poinsettia stamp. It is gorgeous. I love the size of it. If you love to paint and color, this one is so fun. I also went ahead and stamped my sentiments on there. And you can see I played around with different placement with that design. If you wanted to, you could pull in different stamps from your stash and do multiple cards with different stamps. Now I've pressed a Toffee Crunch Memento ink pad onto an acrylic block, and I'm just mixing that with some water, and I'm just adding a little bit of painting to the background. I find this is easiest to do before you paint the image, so if I think of it ahead of time, I will do it beforehand, especially with a red image, because a red is the color that likes to sort of bleed or blend out if you get, when you're painting the background, if you get too close. I'm doing this with the Toffee Crunch Memento ink just because I think it gives a really nice antique look without it being too, yellow. And don't worry, I did get a little red splotch on there, but I was able to trim it down so it didn't show. Now I'm going to color in my image using Arteza Real Brush markers. You could also paint this in. If you wanted to do this with Copics, you could do that. Just make sure you do it on a Copic friendly paper. But what I wanted to do is to be able to go over that foiled design or that embossed design with the coloring that I do. So they kind of play together, that border and the image that is stamped. So I put down my darker color, and then I'm going in with a lighter color and sort of coloring on top and pulling that out towards the tip. And then for the very tip, I've got a paintbrush with some water to just blend that out. And if there's any spots I need to blend together more, I can just lightly go over that. Now when I dip my paintbrush into the water, I do have a paper towel there that I dab it on before I take it to the paper so it's not too wet. This is a really fast way to color in your images. And I do find with this technique though, using any of the popular water-based markers, that the Bristol smooth paper makes all the difference in them blending easily and sort of sitting on top of the paper and not soaking down into the paper and leaving brush strokes and lines. If you get any of the darker color onto your lighter colored marker, you can just color it off on a scratch paper until that darker color colors off of it. Same thing for the petals here. I'm going in with a darker color and then blending it in with a little bit of a medium tone, and then on some of the petals an even lighter peachier tone. You can see that here. And I can color right over that embossed border that I did with the stick and shine designs, or the foiled ones as well. And I have all of the exact colors I'm using listed for you down in that YouTube description box below, along with all the Penny Black products will be listed and linked for you too. And then if I want to or I need to, I can go back in with a paintbrush that's been dipped in water, pat it a little bit onto a paper towel, and then blend any areas that I need to. Now here for these petals that sit up a little bit higher, I'm going to use just the last two colors, so sorry about my head there, so that they are lighter, and that just gives more dimension and interest. Any place that another petal looks like it's going under, that's where I want to put the darker color. And I did stamp this with Toffee Crunch ink. And so it does give it somewhat of a no-line watercolor look. You could also stamp it with whatever color ink that you like. A black ink, a light gray ink would be really pretty. You can see there I'm putting that sort of mid-tone red and then just that light peach color and blending it out with the paintbrush wherever needed. On this one, you can see I left it light all around the edges. That way it sits on top of the one behind it and it's differentiated from that sort of bottom petal. And then I'm just going to get this dark color here in between. I won't need to blend that at all. And then a little touch of this yellow for the center. And I'll lightly sort of pounce that with my paintbrush to blend it out. Now I'm pressing that Toffee Crunch ink onto my acrylic block, mixing it with some water, and then splattering some of that onto the background. It's very light and it blends in, but I felt like with this one layer card, it just needed something a little bit more. So here is a look at the finished cards. I really love this sketch because it leaves a nice large space to add your sentiments that you love. It's fun to play around with the placement of the main image and the sentiment with that border. That foil, I think, sets it over the edge and makes this one layer design just super beautiful, even though it's very simple. There you can see that in the light, reflecting that light. These are all standard size cards, 4 1/4 by 5.5 inches. So once again, before we end, here is another look at that sketch. And then I will give you a look at all of those cards again. I hope you enjoyed today's video. If you did, please be sure to subscribe to our channel, give this a thumbs up, and I'd love for you to leave a comment. I love seeing what you're thinking, what you're excited about. I'd love to know what card is your favorite. And I read all the comments, so I just thank you so much for all of your kind and encouraging words that you leave. I just love the community that we have here on YouTube. Thank you so much for watching, and happy stamping!